Hi again then guys, and welcome to episode 76 of B-Road Ballers, the review series for Gran Turismo's hot hatch lineup. Some sleepers, some traditional hot hatches, some much larger like the Ford Focus or the newer Renault Megane, some which are much smaller like K-cars from Japan for instance. This particular vehicle kind of falls in between the two. It's not an overly large hatchback, but it definitely isn't a small one either. It's the newer shape Mini, or by newer we should say the turn of the century Mini, because of course it has had newer iterations since then, and as I mentioned before in this series, we are of course working our way through the various versions of the Mini performance range. We've already covered the Mini 1 and the Mini Cooper, but now we've got the Mini Cooper S. Now the newer shape Mini Cooper S is one of the best hatchbacks in the game, it's one of the best front wheel drive cars in the game, and I would say it's one of the best 500 pp vehicles in the game. It's an absolute monster around corners, around the Nuremberg Ring, it's a beast, and it's a car which to some degree is kind of a sleeper because many people don't realise just how good it can be. Now this particular model is essentially the older version of that same car. It's the 2002 Cooper S. And as the S moniker suggests, this is a supercharged model. Now, if you were here on the channel for the last episode featuring the Mini range, which was of course for the 2002 non-supercharged Cooper, I actually discussed the fact that surprisingly, in some ways, more ways than you might expect in fact, the non-S Cooper is actually better than this car. It's cheaper, it's more powerful, it's lighter, and has a better horsepower per tonne output. So the question is this car worth consideration at all, or are you just better off getting the Cooper? Because the Cooper of course is more of a sleeper than this one is, because as far as Minis go, the Cooper S is by far the most expected choice. Of course you're going to go for the Cooper S, it's the top of the line. And that's the reason why the normal Cooper can be so good, because it's not expected and people will let their guard down and not know exactly how good it actually is. So is that the case with this model in comparison to the Cooper, or does it have its uses? Well, yes, I would say that it does. It's not necessarily quite as good value as the non-S Cooper version. If you're looking purely for the best version of the turn of the century Mini, then you are better off getting the Cooper. It's just a better value deal. This car, though, I would say has much more limited use and limited appeal and limited range of effectiveness, but it does have a range of effectiveness and it does have appeal to some people. Now the Cooper is more useful just because it's the better model overall. This one though, I would say is more a vehicle for fans. People who, for instance, like all of the Mini models, or maybe they're just Mini fans in general. This is more the kind of car for you, because it's essentially the top of the Mini tree, or at least it was at the time. It was later, of course, surpassed by the John Cooper Works GP, which is a really hardcore, seriously quick version. Probably my personal favourite version of the Mini, but of course that car isn't featured on the game, so this is the closest we can get to that. So what does it offer? We already know it has less power, more weight, and it's more expensive. So are there any ways in which it is better than the other Minis which preceded it? Well, yes, there are. It's supercharged for a start, and although that's not necessarily an advantage, it is interesting to note, because in a world where cars use so many similar methods, front-wheel drive, small, lightweight, most of them are turbocharged, to see something that actually does break away from the crowd and use a supercharger instead is quite nice. It's, as I said earlier, not an essential thing, but it has its uses to some people that will appeal. And personally, although I think turbos are the better option, I do like the fact that this is a supercharged vehicle. It adds, I don't know, a bit of different flavour to the car almost, because there are so few supercharged hatchbacks in the game. And on top of that, even though it does have less power, and there's nothing you can do about that, it does have more torque. Quite a bit more torque, in fact, around 50 foot-pounds more at 307. The horsepower itself is still 326, which is pretty good. It's lower, but it's good, and interestingly, the PP is higher than on the Cooper, despite being heavier and less powerful. And that should give you some kind of idea of how good this car could still be. The PP is 505 to the 503 of the non-supercharged version. The price tag is just under 27 grand, which isn't too bad, and the weight is still not bad at all. It's only 5 kilos more than the other model at 937, which is still really good. That's lighter than plenty of other modern hot hatches. The horsepower per tonne is just under 350, and around the track, I would actually say that in one particular way, this could well be better than the Cooper. And that particular way is handling. The Cooper is the better car on paper, and I would say that the Cooper is the better value for money, for sheer value and bang for buck, essentially. This car, though, being specifically designed to be the top of the range, feels better through corners. Now, maybe that's just me, but I would definitely say that the Cooper S is a better track car than the Cooper. The Cooper may well be quicker in a straight line, that wouldn't surprise me given the fact that it does have more power, but around corners, this definitely felt more adept. It felt like it could cope with the tuning far better. The Mini 1, for instance, we discussed the fact that being a normal car, it doesn't cope with being upgraded as well. Whereas with the Cooper, that's slightly improved, because it is a performance model, and with this version, again, it's improved even more, because it's designed to be the top of the range. So overall, this is a car which is easy to overlook. All of the older Minis are, of the new generation, but it's certainly worth a look for people who are Mini fans, or which just want a good hot hatch. Overall, though, it's a toss-up. Each Mini is good for different things, so overall, it's certainly worth checking out for some people, and for others, perhaps not. But that's it overall for this particular episode. I'll see you guys next time, and as always, thanks for watching.